Unit 6, Dryden, Absalom, and Achitophel. The purpose of Absalom and Achitophel is explicitly political. Dryden sets out to exalt the region of Charles II and his most implacable enemies. Absalom, the illegitimate son of King David, was prompted by Achitophel, the Earl of Shaftesbury, to fight for the throne. And finally, the throne from King David, the Absalom's father, taken by Achitophel. Achitophel begins a long temptation speech to seduce Absalom to this rebellious cause. And this is the same temptation which we have seen in John Milton's Paradise Lost, which was tempted by Satan to Eve. Due to that, Eve ate the fruit of forbidden tree, and she has become the symbol of sin. Let me give a brief biography of John Dryden. John Dryden, the most popular poet, critic, and satirist of his age. And his two famous satires are Mac Flicknock and The Medal. And apart from that, the another famous satire is Absalom and Achitophel, which is recommended for our study. And he has written many famous poems like Annus Mirabilis, Religio Lacey, The Hind and the Panther, Annie Kildrew, Alexander's Feast, and To My Honored Kinsman. The critical analysis of Absalom and Achitophel. In holy times, before religion made a polygamy a sin, one man was not confined to one woman. Lord did not forbid a man from taking both a mistress and a wife. And Israel's monarch, David, spread his royal seat across the land. Michael is his queen, but several women have godlike David's son. These sons, however, are not royal birth, but thus cannot legally ascend the throne. Of all David's illegitimate son, Absalom is the most loved and admired by both the Jews and by his father. Absalom is handsome and full of grace, and he has proven himself a hero fighting in the foreign wars. David is filled with secret joy, and he watches Absalom grow in a respective way. And as his son, he imagines that he is going to be the future king of the country. The Jebusites, who are native to Israel, began to lose their rights. Their taxes are increased, their land is seized, and their God and religion are discredited. Their priests are incensed. So the Jebusites in the clandestine plan infiltrate all areas of Israel, including the court and brothels, looking for converts. The Jebusite plots make major waves within the government, and the people began to rise up and rebel against David. Some even oppose David from within the government, and the most influential of them is the false Achitophel. Achitophel is smart and accomplished, ambitious of power, and he has flexible moral. He wants to either completely take over the government or destruct it. He pretends to befriend David to accomplish just that. Absalom strokes Israel discontent and tells everyone that David is a Jebusite. The Jews have a history of announcing a new king every 20 years or so, and Achitophel decides it is the time for him to become the king of the country. He knows that he can never be a king, but if he must have one, he wants it to be Absalom. Achitophel begins by publicly hailing Absalom's birth as royal. He claims Absalom will be the Jews' savior, and he is the answer to their prayers. Absalom's popularity soars, and even babies learn to say his name. Achitophel flatters Absalom with compliment of his superior virtue and reminds him that David had to answer to call to the throne when was in exile of God. The people are restless and crying for a new king, and Achitophel is sure if Absalom joins their cry with the royal blood, the people will choose him as the king, not Absalom. Absalom is flattered by Achitophel as like his father, but he knows that his father is a good king. So Absalom says that he is kind and merciful and he rarely draws blood. The crown is, however, just destined for the worthier head. After David, the crown moves down to the collateral line, to David's brother, who, regardless of his vulgar spite, has a legitimate claim to the throne. Still, Absalom does wish he had born into royalty so he could rightfully assert his own claim to the crown. But to desire power that rightfully belongs to another, Absalom says that he is godlike sin. Achitophel can see that Absalom is not convinced, so he set up game. He tells that young prince that God has made him virtuous for a reason. David is weak, Achitophel says, is a perfect time to challenge his power. He plans to wait until David has foolishly given the last of his money to the people. Achitophel admits that he despised David's brother, and most of the Jews hate him. Now the people have a right to choose their own king. Achitophel says that they don't want David's brother, and it is the right time to climb the crown, which can decorate his head actually. So Achitophel joins the various malcontents of Israel one final end. So finally, in the quest, including Zimri, Mom, Caleb, these are all the royal people who have the rights to advise king in choosing the next king. So now, under his tenure as a magistrate, Shimei talks about the legal and legitimacy of those things. Thus, the people fail to see his own deceit on their side. So he claims that he is outraged by the troubles and he wipes a tear from his eyes and tells the people his tears are has to give. As the people raise their arms to Absalom, in price he departs with Achitophel and his men in royal procession, visiting the people of Israel. Absalom is received with love and admiration, and Achitophel is easily able to identify any possible enemies to their cause. No one is safe if king can be dissolved. No sensible man would disrupt the government and dethrone their king, which will surely make their grievance worse. Despite this public opposition, however, there are still loyal men who stand by David, including Barzillai, who was in exile with David, as well as Zodok and Sagan of Jerusalem. So these loyal men inform David of Absalom's ambition and Achitophel's deceit. And finally, having grown impatient, David addresses the people of Israel. He tells the people that he has allowed his role as a father to cloud his judgment as a king, but he will now show them he is not good by the force. Absalom attempts to shake up the kingdom and seize the crown is not a threat to David. And if Absalom wants to continue his efforts, he must prepare to fall. David is the king, he says, God will not allow such treason to come to pass. David is not afraid to draw his sword if he must, and he reminds Jews to beware. If Jews want to fight, David is ready. And while they are breathless and exhausted, he will strike them out. As David speaks, the thunder rocks the sky, and every Jew knows their rightful king. This is how the text ends. So in the summary, you can understand that Absalom and Achitophel is purely a political satire. And the central theme of the Absalom and Achitophel is temptation, sin, fall, and punishment. And it is completely a political satire. It just allegories, refers the execution, the crisis between King Charles and his contemporaries. and which was clearly depicted as a political satire in the title Absalom and Achitophel by John Dryden. So these are the key terms which help you to understand the reference which I have given in the text, and these three are terminal questions. Thank you.